on the Rubin Report.
Does anyone know anyone that has moved to a blue state? Phoenix knows several, but they're total idiots. But what happens when you are a useful tool for the system? It will lift you up and down.
I like the pocket square. This is a special freedom of speech.
Dave, I like the pocket square.
Oh, Dave Rubin is the most handsome. What's shaking, people? I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It's April 23rd, 2026. Like, subscribe, comment, tap things, swipe things, buttons, poking, all of that stuff. We got a great show for you. A little bit of everything, not doing war stuff today. We're in a temporary hold, as you know, very, very shaky ceasefire. Unclear who we're negotiating with, and we just looked at everything. We were like, you know what, let's punt it for today. I'm sure we'll get back to it tomorrow. We're mostly going to be focusing on domestic stuff, a lot having to do with this, at first, what seemed like a disastrous result in the redistricting of Virginia, giving the Democrats what was a 6-5 state in favor of the Democrats, a 10-1 new map, but now a Virginia judge has struck down the entire thing, so there's going to be a huge fight. This could be a Supreme Court situation. We'll get into that. Then why have I been surrounded by so many horrible people during the course of my career? This Hasan Piker guy from the Young Turks, who is he is like the leader of the Democrats right now, and he is a LARPing revolutionary communist who's probably worth 12 to 15 million bucks, but he wants you to get out there and steal some stuff and take from those and wreck the system and burn it down and, figure out how to buy a drone online so you don't have to suicide bomb and a whole bunch more. And then we'll get to a few other things. Let's just dive right in. So, as you know, Virginia had this referendum. They decided to redistrict. It was a very close vote, but they decided to redistrict, going from 6-5 Democrat control in a very, very purple state, right? And the only reason Virginia is purple, it really should be a red state. It's purple because of the amount of blue people that live there because of the proximity to D.C., right? If you don't want to live in D.C. proper, a lot of those people who are all Democrats, big government, sort of like if you think of like the deep state type, people that are perpetual people that live there, they decide to live, they don't want to live in the D.C. proper, so they moved to Virginia, right? So that's made it a purple state. So for years, their congressional map has been pretty fair, 6-5, pretty fair in a pretty much 50-50 state. They have this referendum, it goes 10-1. That's over 90%, 10-1 Democrat favor. Now a Virginia state judge has turned it back, but it's causing a whole big fight. So here is Timu Obama, and I am telling you, I call him Timu Obama because he's just knockoff Obama, like he watched Obama videos and tries to replicate him and pretend that he's him, and he's not very good at it. But I really, really believe he is a humanoid robot. He is a Gen 1 humanoid robot. Like the Optimus robot that Elon's working on has not gone commercial yet, but when that thing comes out commercially, supposedly at the end of this year, it is going to be far more lifelike than this man. But here he is, and he's pissed at Florida. That's right, he's pissed at all of us because DeSantis is willing to fight fire with fire, and if you guys are going to redistrict, we might do the same, and we are very, very red here, and it will not work out well for you. Here is robotic Timu Obama.
Our message to Florida Republicans is F around and find out. If they go down the road of a DeSantis dummy mander, the Florida Republicans are going to find themselves in the same situation as Texas Republicans, who are on the run right now, and under no circumstances are Texas Republicans picking up 5 seats. They'll be fortunate if they get 2 or 3. While in California, we are going to get all 5. The Republicans are dummy mandering their way into the minority before a single vote is cast because they started this war, and we're going to finish it.
These people are extraordinarily horrible. Like, they have no principles whatsoever. I say it all the time, guys. Look, Democrats, awful. Obviously, at this point, I think they largely hate America, and I don't even think that's hyperbole. Republicans are not great for the most part. Florida Republicans are pretty great. DeSantis is pretty great. Like there are some gems out there. But he's basically saying, when we do it, it's okay. When we gerrymander, we're very excited. We got this result we wanted. Put aside the judgment for just a second. We got a result we wanted, and when we do it, it's great. When they do the exact same thing, it's evil. It's dummy mandering. It's so freaking boring. This is why people check out of politics and can't take it. And also, he's just so overly scripted with his little phrases and no human emotion. And I'm telling you, if you cracked open his face, there would be a little alien inside. Get me the picture of that alien. I love that little alien from Men in Black who was. And anyway, Mr. Florida man himself, Ron DeSantis, is very excited that Hakeem might be focusing on our free state a bit more.
This guy Jeffries popping off in Washington about Florida. He wants to be Speaker of the House, and he's kind of like, more liberal than Pelosi and all this other stuff from New York City. I just want to know, oh, Florida can't do, we're going to go after Florida. Please be my guest. I will pay for you to come down to Florida and campaign. I'll put you up in the Florida governor's mansion. We'll take you fishing. We'll do all this stuff. There's nothing that could be better for Republicans in Florida than to see Hakeem Jeffries, everywhere around this state. Now, I kind of feel bad for the guy because he's as left as they come. He's always going left, and yet the far left hates him. They call him a dollar store Obama. They call him AIPAC Shakur, all these different derogatory names that they do. And so he's tried to ingratiate himself with but they're just not drinking the Kool-Aid, and so they give him a hard time. So I kind of feel bad for that. But please be my guest to come down in Florida. We would love to have you.
Republicans nationwide, if you're watching, that's what you want to do. Throw it back in their face every time. I actually believe DeSantis when he says that. Like, okay, Timu Obama, you want to focus on Florida? You want to come down here? I honestly believe that Governor DeSantis would open up the guest wing up in Tallahassee and say, you're welcome to sleep here. I will take you fishing myself. I'd like to take the guy on a ride for the Everglades, just the two of us, but Anyway, here's the picture of the Men in Black alien, and I'm just telling you, this is what's going on inside his head. See, and also note, the alien has no genitals, so it's definitely a Democrat, and it lives inside Timu Obama's head. But DeSantis did make another point, which is that Hakeem Jeffries he's doing the slightest little dance where he's not full jihadi yet, but he's right. The base hates him for that. So he's just not, all he is just more and more government. When we do something, it's good. When you do something, it's bad. And I would say as a Floridian, bring it. And I would also say as a Floridian, Ron DeSantis, go ahead. Let's redistrict the hell out of everything. You know what? I know they can make the same argument. It's not the correct argument. They can do the same thing. We are not in normal times right now. There is a party that plays by no rules, that not only plays by no rules, but tells you that they don't like the rules anyway, and if they had enough power, they would rip up the rules. So to whatever extent, when we have power, we can do things in our favor. And when it's in our favor, it's in everyone's favor, right? Because if Florida redistricts, what's our district? What are our numbers right now? What's our congressional breakdown right now? It would go, if he redistricts, it sounds like it would go to something like 28-2 or something like that. We'll get the numbers right now, which are obviously heavily in Republican favor. What is it? So right now it's 20-8 right now. So it sounds like it would go it would be about 26-2, something like that. The point is, if we did it here in Florida, Florida would end up being safer. Florida would end up being more fiscally sound. You'd be sending better people into DC to clean things up, and that's the complete reverse of what the Democrats do. But now let's pause on the Florida portion of that, because that hasn't happened yet. Let's get you caught up on what happened yesterday, because it sounds like this 10-to-1 map is going to be thrown out, or at least temporarily delayed. This is from Fox. Virginia court declares state's redistricting vote was unconstitutional in legal win for Republicans. Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones said the ruling ruling from an activist judge will be immediately appealed by his office. So I am not a I'm not a constitutional lawyer, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm fully familiar with the Virginia state constitution, but at the moment, a judge, I don't know why I keep saying federal, a judge from Virginia is saying that the whole freaking thing here was set up the wrong way. We're putting a pause on it. Now here is Timo Obama, and he's very upset, and look at him emote about it.
How would Democrats respond if the Virginia nonpartisan Supreme Court does ultimately strike down this new map and find the referendum illegal?
The law is with us in Virginia. The facts are with us in Virginia. And the people are with us in Virginia. There's no basis in law or fact for the Virginia Supreme Court, under the Constitution that exists, particularly in the aftermath of a people-approved referendum, to do anything other than to allow it to move forward. Susan?
Okay.
He's like a low-grade ChatGPT. It's just incredible. But he says, and also the prepackaged way he speaks, the law is with us. What was the second one? The facts are with us. The people are with us. First off, on the people side, it was barely passed. That's number one. The facts and the law, well, apparently a judge, who I would imagine is a little more familiar with the law, doesn't agree with that. Apparently the judge's argument has more to do with the process, and the lower court found constitutional violation. So we will see about that. But the point is, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. If anything, what Timo Obama and the Democrats would love is that if a lawyer finds that this whole thing was unconstitutional and makes an argument for it, even if it's completely airtight, in a weird way, they would love for that to happen if it got reversed, because then they would see the courts didn't do what we want. And if they don't do what we want, that means they're illegitimate. So when we get back to power, we're going to have to, we'll disbar some judges, we'll pack the Supreme Court, et cetera, et cetera. But look at what, putting aside judges, law, and anything else, look at the abject insanity of what they were trying to do here. So take a look at these maps. So the first map, or the top one there, is how Virginians vote. So it's largely a red state. Now, interestingly, it gets bluer as it gets closer to DC, as I illustrated before. Now, it's largely a red state. The middle one shows you what they have had, the 6-5 districting, right? So, okay, it's mostly, you're gonna get more people, even though there's more red there, you have more people in those blue areas. That's why it was 6-5 to Democrats. Then what they did via this election was 10-1. And does that seem right? So just forget the middle one for a second, which is the fair one. 6-5 in a state that's basically 50-50. 6-5 is pretty close to 50-50. The top one, in terms of where people live and the sprawling population all over the state, it's a very red state with little blue pockets. And now look at the bottom one. They've decided to turn it all blue. So does that seem fair? Does that seem right? Does that seem like a way a state and a country can operate over time? And by the way, some of you may be watching and going, but Dave, the Republicans do the same thing. We'll have more on that in just a little bit. Here is Scott Jennings explaining that what Virginia had with their 6-5 split was quite literally the fairest map in the nation before all of this.
Virginia literally had the fairest maps in the nation. They had a 6-5 map, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. In terms of proportional representation, they had the fairest map in the nation that was drawn, by the way, by an independent commission that the voters asked for just a few years ago. Now they will have the least fair maps in the nation. And I'm not surprised that the yes vote won. They had all the money and all the lies. And sometimes in politics, when you got those two things, you can put something over the line. Even something as egregious as this whole thing has driven Spamberger's approval ratings down into the toilet. She lied to the people of Virginia. They had to write a ballot question that was a joke. They drew maps that were a joke. Now you're going to have huge chunks of rural Virginia represented by 5 or 6 Democrats who all live in northern Virginia within about 15 miles of each other. It's a complete joke. Everybody knows it. And there's a reason that all these national Democrats and all their money came into Virginia, because, they don't really care about the people of Virginia. They just care about power.
Yeah, as usual, Scott just laying out basic facts. So yes, Spanberger lied. We played the video yesterday when she was running, said she would not redistrict. That's number one. Politicians, they lie, okay. Number two, the ballot, we showed it to you yesterday. Can we pull it up again actually real quick? What was the ballot itself that people voted on? Where it basically was like, if you want to restore fairness or something like that, because they worded it in a crazy way, because a lot of people walk into the ballot box and you just go, I don't know that much about this or that. I see all these things. What does the little caption say? They give you like a little, a little review of what you're voting on, and they worded it in a very, very sort of duplicitous question. Should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections? I mean, that's so Orwellian, it's beyond imagination. First off, temporarily, and as Ronald Reagan said, there's no government program that is temporary. They're all ultimately permanent. He said there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program. And then, of course, to restore fairness. As Scott just pointed out, you're basically a 50-50 state that had a 6-5 map. Now you wanted to go to 10-1, so did they restore fairness? And then he also pointed out, and this is what I said earlier, when you look at those maps, the places the Democrats live are basically right next to DC, very clustered, but overall, if you look at the entire state, it actually is red. So this is a blatant, in-your-face power grab by the Democrats. And now watch them gloat. Here is awful human being, AOC.
What do you make of Republicans saying that Virginia is you guys getting Democrats
wow.
totally unconstitutional and wrong?
Democrats have attempted and asked Republicans for 10 years to ban partisan gerrymandering. And for 10 years, Republicans have said no. Republicans have fought for partisan gerrymanders across the United States of America, and these are the rules that they have set. And so if the Republican Party wanted to start this, they did this in North Carolina. They drew out 3 Democratic members of Congress in North Carolina. They drew out in Texas. They redid Texas. What they're just mad at is that they have been accustomed to a Democratic Party that rolls over, doesn't fight, and takes everything sitting down. And what they're mad at right now is that we are here in a new day.
Okay, I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I will give AOC a little something here, which is that both sides do things, right? They both do things, and as I always say, Republicans aren't great, they're just a little bit better than the Democrats. Then you have some all-star Republicans, Trump, DeSantis, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought you might find this interesting, and we did fact check, it is correct. Look at this image. This is states with 0 Republican seats. So Massachusetts, it's 36% Republican. They have 0 seats. Connecticut, 42% Republican, 0 seats. Maine, 46, that's almost half. And New Mexico, almost half. New Hampshire, almost half, 48%, 0 seats. Rhode Island, 42. Vermont, 32. Hawaii, 38. And Delaware, 42%. All 0 seats. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 states right there that, roughly, let's say, 36 to 48% of the population is Republican, and they have 0 seats. And then the Democrats went to a purple state that was the fairest map in the nation and tried to swing it 10-1. How can this work over time? How can this work over time? It cannot. It cannot. Do we have video? We keep showing video of Barack Obama lying about different things and changing his opinion depending on whether he's in power or not. This is a different one, but it's the same concept. 2015, Barack Obama.
The process of political gerrymandering, I think, is damaging to Congress. I don't think the insiders should draw the lines and decide who their voters are, because I think that and Democrats and Republicans do this. And it's great for incumbents, but it means over time that people aren't competing for the center because they know that if they win a Democratic primary or Republican primary, they've won. So it pushes parties away from compromise in the center.
My God, am I agreeing with Barack Obama? What happened to that guy? Yeah, You were right back then. Of course, now you got, well, again, it's hung up by the courts, but you got the result you wanted in Virginia, and you were tweeting about how spectacular it is, and oh my God, we're saving democracy and everything else. Here is Princeton political scientist Lauren Wright on CNN calling out some of the other panelists because they're apparently, these are all Dems and lefties, because it's always 7 of them versus 1 sane person, and apparently they're against what Obama just said right there.
Democrats have passively sat by as Republicans gerrymandered?
Well, it's not that they actively sat by. They used to say this is a threat to democracy. You don't get to choose your voters. It should be the other way around. I mean, Obama gave very compelling remarks on these things. And so was that a lie?
No.
Or... Okay, so it's okay to threaten democracy and destabilize.
Fact patterns change, and what this fact pattern did was that Donald Trump called and said, "I'm trying to win this next election because we think we're going."
I don't buy that at all.
He literally called.
He literally attribute a higher morality to either of the political.
I'm not saying one is higher morality. I'm saying that the fact pattern has changed in this point, and it's not the same backdrop when Obama gave the speech.
Texas went first? Is that your...
It was Texas and
yeah, I'm saying that's politics. Don't.
All right, first off, lady, and I'd really love to get my hand in her hair and just see what's going on there. That's really, can we get a picture of her again? How do you, it just feels like that's kind of, it's almost like Venom, and the symbiote. You'd put your hand in there and it would like that. Anyway, she claims that the fact pattern changed because Donald Trump called and said, "I'm trying to rig the election." Basically, we have no evidence. Were you able to find that call when Donald Trump called somebody and said, "We're going to try to rig the election"? No, we can't find that. Also, lady, principles, you're supposed to have principles when it's hard to have them, because if you have principles when it's easy to have them, they aren't really principles. They're just kind of little bonus things that you have. Can we, wait, we have her hair? I think, all right, it doesn't even matter. We don't need the hair. We got the point. But fact patterns change. Fact patterns change. Okay, so again, if that's how we are going to do this, when you guys have power, if you're going to exert it maximally, while we pointed out yesterday, you know what's happening in Indiana right now, which is a very red state? They could have redrawn the map, but conservatives try to conserve. So they were less inclined to abuse that power, let's say. So it's not a 50-50 thing, and until Republicans start realizing that, we're going to get smacked and smacked and smacked and smacked and smacked, and apparently some people just like getting smacked around. Who likes getting smacked around? Well, it's the people of California, because although Gavin Newsom is wrapping up his reign of terror as governor as he gets ready to run for president, they have to elect a new governor. And unfortunately, Eric Swalwell, who banged a Chinese spy named Fang Fang, then apparently raped somebody, then the underage thing, and the videotape, and the farting, and all that, he's out. But they did have a debate last night. And, well, these are not the best people we're going to show you. We're going to show you really a collection of quite terrible people, except one guy. But here is Katie Porter when asked about Gavin Newsom and homelessness.
Ms. Porter, we're going to begin with you. You recently gave the governor a solid A- when it comes to his overall job performance. What grade would you give him on homelessness, and what, if anything, would you do differently? You have 60 seconds.
I'm a notoriously tough grader, but I would probably give him a B on homelessness.
What grade does he get on homelessness, and what, if anything, would you do differently? You have 60 seconds.
Frank, I would say that the governor has made efforts. We've seen him come down to Los Angeles, actually go out and try to clean some of the streets. On effort, I would give him an A.
Okay, so Katie Porter, who's a notorious hard grader, would give him a B. She's so hard as a grader, she would give him a B. You know what I mean? Because he's really an A, but she's just a tough grader, so she'll give him a B. And then Xavier Becerra, they're A for effort. What are you? Are you a third grade teacher in the three-legged race? What are you talking about? An A? He came down to L.A. That guy risked his life to show up in L.A. once, and he took a walk. Can you believe it with this guy, with all his armed security guards and everything else? I asked the guys, I said, guys, this is going to be a little too easy for us, but let's just do a little low-hanging fruit here. I said, Phoenix, could you go to, what's the account called? Street People of L.A.? There's an account on X called Street People of LA, and all it is some guy with a phone, and he just wanders around and he sees people lighting people on fire and smoking crack and taking dumps and fentanyl folds, and it's happening all over the city. There's a tremendous amount of content. I'm sure he has more videos to post per day than one should be posting on X. But this is yesterday in LA, and it took us less than 0.6 seconds to find.
Dude, come on. Smoking fentanyl on the bus. Come on, dude. Don't do that. You can't do that.
No, you can videotape someone smoking fentanyl on a bus. You're not supposed to smoke fentanyl on a bus. That guy also, by the way, was one of the gubernatorial candidates. He was standing at the edge of the stage. These people are out of control. An A for effort. I'm trying to smoke fentanyl. Don't let me be. Oh, it's an F. It's an F. It's an F minus. But you're Democrats, and this is what you want, and you're going to get more of it. Here's Katie Porter completely lying about the homeless population.
You have 15 seconds.
If you were in my class, Mr. Hilton, you would learn in my bankruptcy and consumer protection class that the majority of homeless people in California are actually working. They're not just people on the streets. It's not just people with mental illness or people with drug or substance use problems. It's also families who are fleeing intimate partner and domestic violence. It's people who are double and tripled up. It's people who are living in their cars on our college campuses. Homelessness comes in a lot of different forms, and if we don't see the whole problem, if we demonize them from one perspective, we'll never be able to solve this problem.
She's completely made up, and we did some research before. The majority of homeless people are not working. Well, they might be selling crack. Maybe. And actually, the guys who are selling the crack aren't homeless. Those guys are probably living in pretty fat high-rises in Beverly Hills. It's hard to get some numbers here, but according to ChatGPT, probably around 8 to 15% of homeless are working. The idea that she's talking about that they're not really drug users, and again, a lot of this is self-reported, so I would say you don't even have to look at stats. Go to LA. If you're just a psychopath and want to take a vacation, go to LA and see what's going on. And oh my, how many jobs are you? You're just a college student selling the smoke. And that guy taking the dump at the CVS at the entrance, he's a college professor. And so then they've got this other guy. It's just such a clown car. He says Becerra is awful. Katie Porter is just horrendous. And then they've got this guy, Tom Steyer. He is a billionaire, but he's all about raising taxes on billionaires and millionaires, of course, and that's why they're all fleeing. And he basically he doesn't want them to behead him. That's pretty much what this guy is doing. And you can just see it on his face. He just looks like what am I doing? And it's like, if you have that much money, what are you doing, man? Anyway, he's very concerned that we're gonna be racially profiling if we were to find out that, the truck drivers actually were American and spoke English.
Mr. Steyer, where do you draw the line on this? Should language proficiency for truckers be strictly enforced, even if it means that some of them will probably lose their jobs? You have 60 seconds.
Look, I agree with what was said, which is we don't know the context of this stop. But what I can say is this: racial profiling is illegal. And in fact, picking on people based on the color of their skin in the state of California is illegal.
You see what he did there? Nobody asked about skin color. The question was, should truck drivers speak English? And he made it about skin color because that's what they do. Everything is racism. They find racism everywhere except where it actually is. But you absolutely can make an argument that, I don't know, basic things like truck drivers, that they should speak English. And also, if you've come to this country, back in the day when people came to America, 100 years ago, coming from all over the world, they basically learned English. Pretty much everybody. And if the older people that came didn't, they were kind of too old to do it. You're middle age and up, you didn't learn English, you guaranteed that your kids were going to speak English. You guys want this perpetual separate group of people who, let's put up signs in their language and let's start teaching their language in schools and everything else. And then what will happen 2 or 3 generations down the way? We'll have 87 languages here. Nobody will be able to communicate with everybody. You also will be telling us how awful the whole place is, and we're going to all want to kill each other. Now, there was one sane person on the stage, and he's originally British, which kind of is hilarious in some weird sense. He was also former Fox host, Steve Hilton. I've been on his show. And here he is being asked the same question, basically, about the truck drivers.
Mr. Hilton, would you require full compliance with the federal language standards for truck drivers? You have 60 seconds.
So I've discussed this with someone called Marcus Coleman from Bakersfield. His beautiful daughter, Delilah, was put into a coma by someone driving a truck. An illegal immigrant, didn't speak English, and his daughter now disabled for life. That's what we're dealing with here. It is completely ridiculous that we have people driving on our roads who can't understand road signs and can't speak English. So, yes, of course, and I've discussed this with my friend Sean Duffy, the Transportation Secretary, we will not be issuing commercial driver licenses when I'm governor to people who are illegally here and who don't speak English. That is obvious common sense.
Obvious common sense, which is likely why he will not be governor of California, because they don't seem to want that. But Steve, I wish you an awful lot of luck. Let's get Steve on the show if he has some time before the election. And you know, the fact that he's up there with these crazy people, that's the answer. The fact that these questions are even being asked, should these people be able to speak English? I don't know, when you're on the road, should you have to be able to understand a road sign? Is that, and you're a commercial driver, is that where we're at? I guess that is where we're at in certain states. Here's a bit more on Steve Hilton about becoming an American.
One of the proudest days of my life was the day I became an American citizen. It happened in a ceremony right here in San Francisco. So it is a deep honor for me to be endorsed by the President of the United States. And here's the thing that's going to help every Californian when I'm governor, is that we will have a constructive relationship and partnership with the federal government, which would be the case, I would hope, for any party in that situation, so that we can make things better in California, work with the president and his administration to manage our forests better, to harvest the timber so we can build the single-family homes we need for young families, to work to increase California energy production as he wants to do, so we can lower gas prices, to fight the fraud in our government so we can cut spending and cut taxes, to work to enforce our immigration law.
Isn't that something? You have a first-generation immigrant from across the pond who is deeply proud to be an American, who is now endorsed by the President of the United States, who just laid out probably 5 or 6 key points, key things that he would do if he was governor. He takes complete and utter common sense approach to all of these issues, and we will see what the people of California do. Now let's jump over to national treasure, Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, because as you know, the SAVE Act is currently hung up in the House right now, and it sounds like John Thune is not doing much with it, but here's Kennedy laying out basic simplicity.
The American people no longer have confidence in our elections. You can debate whether that's justified or not, but it's just a natural fact. I think that we can restore confidence in our federal elections if we do 3 things. If we come up with a way to make sure that everybody who is registered to vote is an American citizen. I think we can restore confidence in our elections if, number 2, we pass a rule for federal elections that says you have to prove you are who you say you are in order to vote. And number 3, I would like to see us, I consider this part of the Save America Act, but it's not traditionally part. I think we ought to go back to having an election day and not an election month.
You know, isn't it interesting? Steve Hilton a moment ago just laid out basic reality, common sense reality on a stage with radical lunatics. And there's Kennedy doing the exact same thing. Like, should we figure out who's here and whether they should vote or not, and ensure that if you're legal, you can vote, and if you're not, you can't? Pretty basic, lowest common denominator stuff. Could there be some other things around that ensure that the people are going to be confident that the election works? Of course, and he can say it calmly and plainly, where these other people have everything they say. It's sort of like the Team Obama thing. It's these bumper sticker slogans that mean absolutely nothing as they drag us all to the precipice of hell. So the people of Cali will have to decide what they want to do in their gubernatorial election, and for those of us that are just old-fashioned Americans, I think it's around 85% of us, 80 to 85% of us, who want the SAVE Act passed. If the Republicans cannot do that, well then, as I said, they may be just a tiny bit better than the Democrats, but they ain't that great. Guys, let's talk about Van Man for a second. You know, people have been telling me that my lips have never been this moist on the show. That's what they're constantly telling me. And it is true. I am using this lip balm. It is incredible. Let me tell you a few things that these people are doing. If you think brands like Dr. Squatch, Burt's Bees, and or Native are still the small, wholesome companies they once were, think again. Most of them have been bought by massive corporations and private equity firms, and over time, they've started cutting corners. But one company's doing things differently, the Van Man Company. They were early with the tallow movement, creating grass-fed tallow moisturizers before it became trendy, and they've stayed consistent ever since. Here's why it matters. Tallow is one of the best moisturizers you can use because its fatty acids are almost identical to your skin's natural oils. Your skin feels softer, smoother, and deeply nourished without that greasy artificial residue you get from products packed with chemicals and fillers. Plus, because there's no junk in it, a little goes a long way. One jar lasts much longer than you'd expect, and it's not just a moisturizer. Tallow Balm can replace your lotion, night cream, wrinkle cream, even things like Neosporin or diaper balm. It's powerful enough to actually support skin healing, yet made from ingredients so clean you could literally eat them. Are you ready to ditch the corporate chemicals? Go to vanman.shop/Rubin. Use code Rubin for 15% off your first order. That's vanman.shop/Rubin. Code Rubin for 15%. You will have smooth lips. I am telling you. I just keep a bar of soap literally on my desk. That's how good it smells. They wanted me to drop the soap at the end of this thing, but I'm just not going to do that. That's not this kind of show. All right, let's talk about more crazy Democrats for just a second. And this one really is at the top of the list. So this Hasan Piker guy, we've talked a bit about him over the last couple months, I suppose. He is the nephew of Chunk Yogurt, the guy who runs the Young Turks Network. And if you thought he was a screaming, psychotic, anti-American lunatic who used to sign my checks, well, his nephew Hasan is even worse, and he has become the it thing for the Democrats. And I would set this segment up by mentioning something that I've mentioned many times, which is Jordan Peterson used to go to DC and talk to Democrats, and he would always ask them the same thing: when do you think the left goes too far? And he would always say no one could ever give him an answer, right? Because generally they don't come from first principles. They just want power so that they can progress, right? Versus Republicans, conservative-leaning people, there's at least usually it has something to do with religion, but then there's also, we believe in the foundational principles of the United States of America and individual liberty and all of those things. So there was never a moment where you could get these people to sort of moderate themselves. So every time they lose, in their minds, it's like proof that they're right and the system is rigged against them. So they keep getting to worse and worse positions, and they keep bringing in worse and worse people. This Hasan Piker guy probably is the top of that. And the crazy part is because he has this huge audience on Twitch with young people who he's radicalizing at a very fast pace, I would say. All the Democrats are meeting with him, despite the fact that he said that America deserved 9/11, despite the fact that he's done videos telling kids how to build drones. Don't suicide bomb yourself anymore, just build a drone. You can get it on some Chinese website. He's called for blood in the streets. He called for the assassination of Rick Scott. I mean, the guy's a piece of work. But here he is, and this is where it's going to get really dangerous, and I have warned about this for years, guys. So he goes on this New York Times podcast, and he's in different clothes now, and you'll note the soft lighting and all of that stuff with these two chicks who really could make you blow your brains out. And here they discuss the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson by Luigi Mangione. Take a look.
Engels wrote about the concept of social murder. And Brian Thompson, as the United Healthcare CEO, was engaging in a tremendous amount of social murder, the systematized forms of violence, the structural violence of poverty, the for-profit paywalled system of healthcare in this country. And the consequences of that are tremendous amounts of pain, tremendous amounts of violence, tremendous amounts of deaths. And that was a fascinating story for me, because Americans are very draconian about crime and punishment. They're very black and white on this issue. And yet, because of the pervasive pain that the private healthcare system had created for the average American, I saw so many people immediately understand why this death had taken place.
Okay, he is really, really dangerous and really, really evil. Now, the difference between me and him is that I don't excuse death. I don't say, well, you know, if you were to kill my political opponent, I could kind of get there and understand why. But he basically is acting as the judge, jury, and executioner with made-up terms, social murder. And then you can see he's just regurgitating a whole bunch of things. Now, first off, tell me, you person watching this right now, if you had a horrible disease, pick your disease, where would you want to be besides the United States of America? Now, that's not to say that in certain countries they could do this, that, or the other thing better. It's not to say that our system is perfect. But in essence, what he said, he kept saying private. So are you, Hasan Piker, what gives you the right to someone else's work? Like, that is, you don't have a right to someone else doing something for you. Now, we're also, and I'll get more to this in a second, we're on the verge of so many things with AI and robotics that healthcare is going to change massively thanks to technology, but they also hate technology. But this is deeply, the broader point here was this is deeply dangerous because basically what he gives you all that language, and it sounds very nice, and those two girls just sitting there like, ugh. He's also, those are two exact type of girls he would mock relentlessly on his show, right? But basically he's saying, yeah, you know, well, there's a bad system in place and this guy worked for a bad system, so I can understand why people would kill him. And of course, the irony of that is that everyone could use that against you, right? You, Hasan, somebody could say, well, you know, I think progressive values are really, really bad, which they are, and I don't like big government, which is terrible, and I don't like that these people take over the streets, which they do, and I don't like that they call for genocide, which they do, and I don't like that they hate America, which they do, and blah, 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 blah. Guess I'm gonna have to kill him. Right? Like, I'm not for that, but once you say, well, we can kind of rationalize, well, we're just going to kill random people because they do things the way we don't like, game on, and it'll go every which way. It is worth noting, ex-commentator History Boomer pointed out that, well, Mr. Social Murder right there, Piker's worth $12 million and reportedly makes at least $1 million a year. He lives in a $2.74 million house. GiveWell estimates it costs $5,000 to save a life via charity. So by keeping his own money, by his own logic, he's socially murdering 200 people a year. I'm gonna guarantee you that guy gives nothing in charity. I give an awful lot in charity. I don't need any credit for it or anything else. Actually, I now feel gross that I even said that, but I give to charities that I think are important and doing good work. And we can check the numbers on this, but generally speaking, conservatives give something like 80% more in charity than liberals do, because liberals want other people to do it with, they want to think they're doing it with other people's money, where conservatives don't want the government to do it, so they happen to generally be more involved. But now I want to connect this to something else. We're going to kind of bounce around here, but you'll see how we'll tie it together. The other part of all of this is that the Democrats are also on a massive anti-technology and anti-AI crusade right now. And the thing is, I say this all the time, you know me, I'm a sci-fi guy. I can do all of the dystopian ways that this can all go wrong, right? I can do all of that from the Matrix to the movie, AI to Terminator, and Skynet turns on and everything else. However, technology is coming. You quite literally cannot stop it. And the best thing that you can do is be aware of it and figure out how to incorporate AI, incorporate robotics into your life, and also understand that as these things become more ubiquitous, it's going to be like every sci-fi movie. There will be capsules that you will literally, whatever disease you have, you will be able to get into, and it could help you cure cancer, it could perform a heart surgery, it could quite literally help a woman give birth. Like, we are about, with nanobots and all of these things, we are on the verge of solving things. But the Democrats actually don't really want things solved. They want you in a perpetual state of fear. So listen to Bernie on AI.
Never before in the history of this country have so few people held so much wealth and so much power. And these very greedy multi-billionaires are not satisfied with what they have right now. They want more and more and more, and they don't care who they step on to get it.
All right, first I'll do it. I haven't done it in a while. I'm Bernie Sanders. I keep looking this way while I'm talking. Is the robot standing there with the gun right there? Okay. I'm Bernie Sanders, so I don't really want any sort of actual progress. I'm a progressive, so I don't want progress. Progress would be if robots and AI were able to make things easier for everybody and help us do things. But I'm Bernie Sanders, and I want to tell you that you have to have a job at McDonald's for the rest of your life at $17.50 an hour, and that's why I want it, even though I know you'll obviously be replaced by a robot. But then when you're angry because you got replaced by the robot, maybe I can get you to burn down some sort of Republican club because I'm Bernie Sanders. What's over there? What is that? Oh my God. They want you to fear everything. We have to go into this new technological phase that we're going into. We have to go in with a skeptical eye. But there will be so many things, it's so interesting. You could take that Bernie clip and then, maybe we'll do this for tomorrow's show. You take that Bernie clip and then take Elon talking about robotics and AI. Elon is going, man, wait till we have this stuff. And we are quite literally gonna send some robots with 3D printers to the moon. And you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna build robots, and then they're gonna print things, literally print physical things, and we are going to build stations that will be autonomous, and then that will be the launching point. Like, there are so many crazily unbelievable things we are on the horizon for, but the Democrats want fear, and the thing is, Bernie, to whatever extent you could even be right about any of this, it doesn't matter. The fear that you are creating is going to lead people to doing crazy things. That is the point. And how do we know it? Well, there's evidence of it. We didn't even cover this story. This is from a couple weeks ago from the New York Times. Molotov cocktail is hurled at the home of OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. The device burned an exterior gate of the house in San Francisco, the police said, and it was unclear whether the artificial intelligence executive was home. The authorities arrested a suspect. Now, we found out a little bit more, and listen to this. The guy arrested is 20-year-old Daniel Moreno Gama, who was driven by extreme anti-AI sentiment and fear of artificial intelligence causing human extinction. The suspect wrote about his fear that the AI race is going to cause human extinction and wrote a 3-part manifesto about AI's evils and was addressed to Altman. In his writings, Daniel stated, if by some miracle Sam Altman lives, then I would take this as a sign from the divine to redeem himself. So now do you see why we did these two segments together? What Hasan Piker said right there at the beginning one was, well, there's social murder, and I don't like the healthcare system. I don't like this privatized thing. And Brian Karp was a guy with a job. He had something to do with it, so I can understand why Luigi just executed him in the middle of Times Square. And then you have Bernie raising the alarm about AI, and the billionaires are coming, and they're going to have all of the robots, and they're going to kill everybody and make us slaves, and blah, 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 blah. And then what happens? Well, some crazy person basically repeats exactly what Bernie said in a manifesto as he throws a Molotov cocktail at Sam Altman's house. So they are trying to normalize this stuff, guys. Hear me. Get this one through the pipes and get it, because once you normalize it, you can literally come after anyone. So is Brian Thompson, who, again, he's justifying the murder. He's saying, well, I get why people did it. All right, well, I don't even want to name names here, but literally any Republican, anyone who doesn't believe what you think, anyone who thinks the system's okay and we're doing the best we can, well, you can pretty much justify it, right? Why not? Why not? Here is Palantir CEO Alex Karp on the Brian Thompson killing, and he explains a little bit of the psychology that Hasan and others are illustrating.
It is very important that people who are smart and have integrity and are willing to fight win. And, it's like, and as a parting note, it's super important to stand up. It starts with footsie, pagan religion, protesting in front of everything where people are just trying to go to school or protesting against Israel or not having an interest in defending the U.S. And it ends with people justifying murdering CEOs. They're completely linked. And that's why you just have to stand up and fight this stuff. And at every turn. And when people are asking you to give money, it's like they're playing footsie with our destruction. And there is no alternative to America in the world. It's like, it is the only thing that works at this scale. It's the only place where people actually are meritocratic and fair.
That is completely right. You know, it's why I end so many of the shows with usually like a somewhat simplistic message about you, like get involved. That's what he's saying right there. He's saying that anyone, you can try to self-select out of this thing. You could go, all right, I don't care about it. I'm not going to say anything about anything. I'm just going to raise my family and go to my job. And eventually they'll still come for you because you're just a guy who works. And instead of being part of the revolution, what do you just work? You just work and you just have a house and kids? You're not part of our revolution? You're going down too, right? There's that incredible, grab the quote from the World War II, from the Holocaust about first they came for the da-da-da and then they came for the grab that. Because they'll go for a certain set of people first, right? You can take out a healthcare CEO and people will be like, well, healthcare is screwy. But, then they'll throw a Molotov cocktail at a tech leader's home. And then they'll, I don't know, assassinate a podcaster. Okay. And a couple other things as we have the urban decay, and it will get much, much worse. And now I want to illustrate some of the other horrible ideas of this guy. And by the way, the only reason I'm even playing these clips of him is because all of the Democrats are attaching themselves to him and they refuse to say he's gone too far. It's the Jordan Peterson thing. So, okay, he basically just winked at murder. I get it. I get why they killed this guy. Well, here he is saying that stealing is also okay.
Right, guys?
I'm pro stealing from big corporations because, they steal quite a bit more from their own workers.
But what about the argument that if everyone just starts stealing wantonly from these self-checkout machines, Whole Foods will eventually raise the prices?
Yeah, chaos, full chaos. Let's go. I mean, look, I'm in favor of fast and free buses and also government-owned storefronts, and two of those policies the mayor of this beautiful city is currently working on.
Would you encourage stealing in the same way from a Mamdani run city-owned grocery store with lower prices, and why?
I would not, because I feel like that's taxpayer funded, and the prices are this union labor, and the prices are also adjusted regardless.
This is what evil is, guys. This is what evil is, and it's on our doorstep. No Democrat will step up against this guy because he's got a big audience. They don't know when they've gone too far, and they know that if they were to say anything about him, saying that stealing from corporations or walking into Whole Foods and stealing is bad, they know he would turn the base on them. So by having no principles, they have now ushered in something very, very evil. Regardless of what your religious beliefs are, there is some old document saying about there's some commandments, I think about 10 of them. One of them is not to steal, but what he believes in is in his own beliefs more than anything else. But in no society can work. So what are you saying? So in anything that's private, because someone has put their sweat equity into it, you can steal. Go in and steal that guy's car. He works at a healthcare company. Why does he get that right for that car? I'm going to blow up his car and kill his wife. Why not? I'm a revolutionary. I'm a good guy. But I won't steal from the Mamdani supermarket, which ironically you got it? It was a couple adjectives I had there. Ironically, won't even be built till 2029. Is going to cost 3 times more than anyone else would build a grocery store for. Interestingly, as long as we're talking about New York City for a moment, there's a slight deviation, but this is just great. Look at this from the New York Post. East Villagers sue Mamdani to stop relocation of notorious Bellevue men's homeless shelter into their neighborhood. So he's moving a homeless shelter into the Lower East Side, into the East Village, and these people are upset because sometimes when you bring a whole bunch of crazy people into your backyard, they might do crazy things. This is what is known as NIMBY, not in my backyard. And it's a perfect way of explaining everything about the left. They want to say they're for things, for they're good guys and they're for all the good things, but if it's going to affect them in the least, then they're suddenly against it. Check this out from the Persian Jewess on X. Over 70% of the East Village voted for Mamdani. Now they're suing Mamdani because he's planning to relocate a Bellevue homeless shelter into the East Village. I'm starting to think that progressive and communist, Islamist ideas don't really work. And the people aren't really for it, but you've created a generation of brain-broken morons. So they jump in and they vote for all this crap, and then the second you get into office, you suddenly say to them, I can't give you free buses, the grocery stores are gonna take 3 extra years to build, and it's gonna be 3x the cost. Oh, and the mental institutions and the homeless places, I'm gonna have to put them in your back. Oh, you don't like that either. Gosh, that's tough. Here's one more from this communist person.
Poor people that they can afford housing in Berkeley. I don't know how that works.
My understanding.
No, I'm pro piracy all the way, like across the board. Would you pirate a car? Yes. If you could, if one could
pirate a car,
it was just a classic thing back in the day. The government funded anti-piracy initiatives would be like, dude, would you steal a car? I'm like, yeah, sure. If I could get away with it, if it was as easy as pirating IP, I would do it.
Would you steal a book from the library?
Never.
No.
Would you steal from the Louvre?
Yes.
I would not be logistically capable of executing such a fact, but would I cheer on every news story of people that I see doing it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's cool. We gotta get back to cool crimes like that. Like, bank robberies, right? Stealing priceless artifacts, things of that nature.
Guys, I'm telling you, you might be watching that going, oh, they're being a little glib or whatever, but that's the New York Times. It's the New York Times podcast or whatever it is. Like, you see what is wrong with the left. She'd be rooting, yeah, you steal Picasso from the Louvre. Oh, good for you. It's not yours. It's not yours. Do you understand that? So they don't care. I mean, it's perfectly consistent with everything. They don't believe in property rights. They don't believe in individual rights. Steal cars. Steal cars just like you can steal IP. Why wouldn't you, is what he said. Why wouldn't you? I don't know, maybe because it's not yours, but we shouldn't be surprised. What would be the end result of a group of people who think that the highest thing that you can do in society is take from those people because they have more and give it to those people? Well, why wouldn't you take all of their cars? Who's the billionaire that just moved here that has the huge yacht that you saw? Sergey Brin. Google, right? Sergey Brin moved here. Can we get the picture of the yacht again? We'll grab it for real quick. Sergey Brin just moved here he came from Cali, I assume? Must have come from Cali. So he comes from Cali, trying to escape all the lunacy over there. Which, by the way, as the founder of, as the CEO of Google, he probably had a little something to do with the craziness. But he's worth gajillion dollars. Give me a number on him. He's got to be worth what? Something nutty here. He has a big yacht. I don't have a yacht. I don't have a boat. That's a pretty big yacht right there. I don't know how much that thing costs, but he has that. Do I have any right to that thing? Connor, are you allowed to just commandeer that thing and take it to the Bahamas? You're not. And why wouldn't you do that? You wouldn't do that because you're a decent, God-fearing fella. But Sergey Brin's worth $255 billion. And that's a hell of a lot of money. And he has also created a product that, whether you like it or not, is on all of our phones, and most of us use it for email and all the rest of it. But what these guys are saying is, in essence, what Hasan said there is, why wouldn't you steal his yacht? Or you know what, don't even bother stealing it. Why wouldn't you blow it up? And why wouldn't you break into his house? And why wouldn't you break into the Louvre or another museum, or go to the Museum of Natural History and steal that big whale in New York City, or anything else? Sergey Brin also created 187,000 high-paying jobs. But I know you don't care about that because some of those people are going to be bad guys too. This is deeply, deeply dangerous. And then now, to connect it to more broadly what's happening across the left, look at this headline from the New York Times. It's an op-ed, but it's worth noting. The rich don't play by the rules, so why should I? Why petty theft might be the new political protest. And again, guys, this should not surprise you, because what has been happening in New York City? A couple of years ago, I think it was de Blasio first, but then Eric Adams did it, and now Mamdani's doing it. If you jump the turnstile, you don't have to pay. So we used to have to pay to get on the subway. But now, if you have you got decent legs still, you can just jump the turnstile and they're not going to arrest you. So not only is that a crime in and of itself, you're spitting in the face of the people who do pay, who are now subsidizing you for that. And it creates, so you'll have this small set of people who are being taxed to the nth degree, who are trying to live lives that are in accordance with the law and everything else. And then you have this other group of people who will be like, well, I can steal, I can jump the turnstile. I don't know, you know, I just feel like I'd really love that. I always go to Lululemon on this. Give me a store that you kids like. Give me a brick and mortar store that you might buy. Toys R Us. I'm not sure they have any more brick and mortar stores. Can I get something else? What? Zoomies. And what is that? I don't know what that is.
A skateboard.
A skateboard. It's a skateboard shop. He's going to Toys R Us. You're going to Zoomies. What are you people doing? You're adults. All right. Anyway, so apparently there's a store called Zoomies. It's a skateboard store. Well, why wouldn't you just throw a rock in the window? I mean, he just said, I'm for stealing from corporations. Throw a rock in the window and grab a new skateboard and be a real rad dude. How was that? I brought that together. That was pretty good. My friend Bridget Fadzi, who's a comedian and podcaster, she put this up, and I think it illustrates the point. Nick Fuentes will never be invited to Yale. He will never be at Vanity Fair parties. He will never sit down and have casual conversations about killing and stealing with someone from the Times. He won't be defended by Ezra Klein. Hasan runs in most elite circles. Wake up. So the point is, to whatever extent there are problems on the right has done a decent job particularly over the last year of pushing away the crazy people, right? Like Tucker is now he's mocked beyond belief. It's not to say he doesn't have any influence, but he's been pushed out of a lot of circles. Nick Fuentes, kid, he's a better example here because he's a kid basically the same age as Hasan, and it's like he's not going to any respectable meetings and being brought in by politicians or anything else, and yet the left, and he's a lefty also because he told people to vote for Kamala instead of Trump. But the point is, Hasan, who was a full-on communist telling people to break the law and saying that America deserved 9/11 and going to China and saying he's not proud of America, he is now being invited by all the Democrat politicians and no one will say anything about him. And it seems to me that it would be pretty easy if you were a Democrat politician to be able to not associate with, say, this.
Poor people that they can afford housing in Berkeley. I don't know how that works.
Well, my understanding is that the property owners who have properties there choose just not to rent it at all.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers and murder those motherfuckers in the street. Let the streets soak in their red capitalist bloods, dude.
Keep going, Ro Khanna. Keep going, AOC. Keep going, Bernie Sanders, and see how attaching yourself to that guy works. Now, I will acknowledge it might work. We might have a bunch of broken-brained people, so that it might work, and he might run for president one day because we didn't stop any of this. However, I'm not stopping it by violence. I'm not saying break into his house and throw a Molotov cocktail at it or murder him, even though he has a whole bunch of bad ideas. The idea, basically what he's saying is there are people who have bad ideas that I don't like. I can understand why they get killed. I think there's a ton of bad ideas this guy has, but you cannot kill him because then we quite literally will not have a functioning society. That's the difference between me and him. Let's talk about Prolon for a second, and then we've got a RubinReport.locals.com community Q&A. Long work weeks and packed weekends can leave anyone feeling and looking run down. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet is designed to work at the cellular level, helping the body reset and rejuvenate from the inside out, supporting fat loss, lean muscle, metabolism, healthier aging, and even better looking skin. Prolon offers a structured, science-backed approach that helps keep things on track. This isn't a quick detox or a fad cleanse. It's a program designed to trigger cellular renewal with benefits that continue well beyond the 5 days. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program with soups, snacks, and beverages carefully designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state. Developed over decades with USC's Longevity Institute and backed by leading medical centers, it's been shown to support metabolic health, skin appearance, energy levels, and fat loss while helping preserve lean muscle. When a real reset is needed, Prolon stands out as a convenient, science-backed nutrition program that delivers real results. Ready for your own reset? For a limited time, Prolon's offering viewers 15% off site-wide plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to the 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/Dave. That's PROLONLIFE.com/Dave to claim the discount and bonus gift. prolonlife.com/Dave. All right, RubinReport.locals.com community Q&A. Brian says, Dave, where do you see this whole fraud thing heading? We're getting it one drip at a time, and it seems like the death of 1,000 paper cuts. Well, I think we'll get some resolution on some of it. that's probably the best we can hope for, right? We're going to get some organizations that are closed down. I think you could even connect this to the SPLC federal indictment yesterday. Like, government is starting to catch the bad guys a little bit more. Trump got off to a nice start at the beginning of the term with the Doge stuff. I think it will be much harder for these people to launder money through Minnesota. Like, are you going to really catch people? And you'd probably have to jail the Attorney General of Minnesota. You know, will Ilhan Omar really be caught up in it? I do think she's going down one way or another, right? Like, between the marrying of the brother, now being caught up in this stuff, her own personal tax returns where she misestimated by about $30 million. Like, I think she's going down one way or another. You can only do so many things at once. And we just have to hope that, when Dr. Oz or Nick Shirley shows up and exposes, boy, there's 40 hospices in this little strip mall here, and there are actually no patients. Or what was the video we showed you last week of the old age home? It was Nick Shirley again, right? He goes into the old age home. I think was that LA or Minnesota? I don't remember. And there's nobody there. There's just tables there. There's nobody there, but it's getting federal money. And there's a woman here like, oh, we don't even have a document to show you. Something has to happen with some of this stuff, but I would say you have to understand, at the state level in blue states, they're all designed for this thing. So I don't think Cali will get much better. Sure, maybe you shave off 10% of it. Minnesota, maybe you shave off 10. What will happen is, and this is just almost the case with virtually every issue, the functioning red states, and I put Florida at the top of that, will continue to get better because we are doing all of the right things with mature, responsible leadership, and the blue states will keep going their separate ways. And again, at some point, and it's sad to say as the backdrop of our 250th anniversary, what actually puts the united in the United States of America? And I'm not sure what the answer is to that. Elizabeth says, if you could be present for one major historical event, which would you pick and why? Oh man. I mean, it's probably Moses parting the Red Sea. Like, if that literally happened, which the older I get, the more I'm starting to think some of this stuff was literal. Like, you get all the Hebrews, they left, they're wandering from Egypt, they're heading to Israel, they're stuck. Pharaoh's on the way with the horse and all the bad guys, and they get to the river, and Moses is like, God, you got to throw me a bone right now. Lifts his staff. Boom, the river splits. Like, whatever the message about that you get over time, it's why the story is told time and time again, is that you got to have faith, right? Like, you got to have faith in God and things will find a way. Whether it happened literally or not, maybe is something else. But to the extent that we can call it a historical event, that would be something. If I give you something just like a little more, fully factually based that we know absolutely happened, maybe listening to the Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln, that might be it. Glenn says, since you left the left, what issues have you changed the most on, and what issues have you stayed the same on? My biggest change was on me hating the rich until Rush Limbaugh set me straight when I was 31. It's probably something similar. I always tell people, most of my principles haven't changed over the years. And I keep saying, defending my liberal values is becoming a conservative position. But I would say the most that I've changed, actually, is I've become way more libertarian on economics, right? So this is why I'm always talking about big government. It's always why I'm talking about the Democrats who just want more, why these social programs are bad and everything else. You can find a video of it. I don't recommend you look for it, and people keep posting, the people that hate me constantly post it. But in 2015, I was a Bernie supporter, and there's a video of me talking about how I support almost everything Bernie was for. And I look back on it, and I was like, man, was I on drugs? I might have been on drugs, actually. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm kidding. But you get the point. Like, I look back on it, like, how immature was I in thinking? And I think that that's what most of what the left is doing right now. They're taking very immature ideas that you should grow out of once you understand what the human condition is. And they're putting them on steroids, and now it's algorithmically charged as well. So the idea that, okay, would we all like a perfect society, whatever that means? Well, everyone wants it, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I would prefer a society where you're going to keep as much as you can of what's yours, that has individual rights and limited government, and that's it. And we can then have to work on the margins of those things. And that's always why I considered myself a classical liberal and not a pure libertarian. Libertarians seem to want no guardrails on any of these things on top of the foreign policy stuff that I always make a point of saying, if you're an isolationist, it's sort of just seventh grade. I don't want war. All right, well, that's not how you're not going to get war, actually. So yeah, I would say economics is the big one. That also, by the way, has a lot to do with that interview that I did with Thomas Sowell and a couple others that I did over the years. Chipster says, have you been on a cruise? You're so close to various cruise lines and destinations. Yeah, so many of the big cruise ships, Royal Caribbean and Carnival and some of the more high-end ones, everything goes out of the Miami port here and also up in Fort Lauderdale. I've been on a couple of cruises back in the day. I used to do stand-up on cruises many lifetimes ago and would bounce around usually the Caribbean islands, like 5-day cruises. And, if you're working the cruise, it's pretty sweet because obviously you're making some money. You're not paying. Like it's, you can just kind of like hang out during the day. At this point, I don't really have any desire for a cruise. I'm not against it altogether, and a couple companies have reached out to us about doing like a Rubin Report cruise kind of thing. When I go on vacation now, I just like quiet. Like the idea of going to the big ass buffet and fighting with people over the last chicken wing, and then I remember we were on a cruise once. And there was just this huge fat woman. She must have been 500 pounds, and she had been sitting out in the sun all day, basically wearing a bikini and just like the fat everywhere, red like a cherry. And she was eating chicken wings while the waterfall was spraying on her. And I thought, this something doesn't seem right about this. Yeah, I just want more quiet. So I like sitting on a beach, got a lounger. I don't need to read. I definitely don't want my phone. I don't need screaming in the background. I just like quiet. So it's not totally my thing anymore. But I know people love them. Plenty of my friends and family absolutely love them. Lo Brian says, are you going to do anything special with Copal for our 250th anniversary and your 50th birthday? Maybe a special sticker for the bottle or an insert of some sort commemorating both events with your signature. That's a great idea. I have not thought about that. We got a couple interesting things happening right now with Copal. Actually, just yesterday, as of yesterday, if you're in the Miami area, we are at Oliver's Bistro in Miami Beach, so you can get some Copal there. You can also go down to Old Cutler Inn in Miami, a couple other places. We're moving it through the system, focusing on Florida first. But I do love that idea of doing something for the 250th of America, maybe a sticker, or let me think about that a little bit. We got to move fast here because I got actual friends and some other stuff today. Eurasian says, could what the SPLC did be like ICE paying illegal alien gang members to rape and kill Americans so that they could resume large-scale raids with impunity? I am telling you guys, this SPLC thing, it puts together so many pieces. We had a puzzle that was just messed up over the last couple of years. And why was the SPLC always going after me and Jordan and all these people and Charlie and everybody? And it was one thing if they were just lying about us, because they didn't like us, we weren't lefty nutbags. But the fact that they were that they funded the Unite the Right rally to over $270,000. And that is the thing that caused Joe Biden to run for president. There is something crazy afoot. I really hope that this one sticks. I'm always talking about stickiness, right? Like these things happen and a lot of them don't stick. Oh, there's a little stickiness here. Robert says, Dave, always appreciate your perspective. Having just read Tucker's regret over voting and endorsing Trump with his brother, apparently siding with him, what base do you think is actually moved by this, and what influence could he potentially have other than fodder for the left? Look, I don't really feel like doing the Tucker thing in totality right now. I think I don't know what has happened to him. People say it's foreign money. He's down some evil, like anti-Semitic rabbit hole. He's been compromised. I don't know what it is. It's all the nicotine that he's chewing every day. I don't know what's going on with him. But what I would say is it's fairly obvious that the guy gets views. You can't deny that he gets views. Many of the views that he gets are because people are watching or hate watching him at this point, right? Or just like, oh my God, what crazy thing did he say now? I don't think he represents a big piece of the electorate, right? We know that MAGA is with Trump right now, but putting aside everything else, if you were Tucker right now, or you're anybody that thinks America is decent, we got midterms coming up. So let's say you're really, really against the Iran war, like you just think it's the worst thing ever. if you were to look at the other things that Trump has done, closing the border, deportations, getting DEI and wokeness out of the institutions, Maha, bringing Bobby Kennedy, everything, and what you could say is, Trump, I'm really disappointed. You could do shows every single day. Tucker could do shows every single day saying, Trump, I'm really disappointed in Iran, and I want to nudge you on that, but we got to win these midterms because otherwise the communists are coming in, and that's what's happening. And he's not. Actually, every single day, he's now bringing on lefties that he has more common cause in because of the horseshoe theory of politics. So I think ultimately he's trying to destroy Trump and he's trying to destroy MAGA. I think there's almost no other way. I don't think that's a subjective statement. I think that's clearly objective, actually. If you never do shows on why the SAVE Act should be passed, if you never do shows on the deportations, if you never do shows on the good economic deals we're landing, okay, you got to be in your bonnet about Iran. It doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter. That's one of 10 things, let's say, that it's one of the top 10 things that Trump is doing. You may hate him for that, but congratulations, you're going to usher in a group of people who are against everything else you purport to believe in. So you'd have to tell me what's going on there. Denver Dave says, Dave, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on what in the world has happened to Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. I'm sure you agree it's quite a stunning change. I don't know. And we've been talking to the guys about, we're thinking about maybe doing a fall trip where we'll do some of Western Europe, but I would love to go back to Italy. I haven't been there since 1997. I don't know what has happened to her. It seemed like she was going to be like the Trumpian kind of all-star, and she was going to really deal with deportations and the crime and the jihad and everything else, and she just has not done it. I don't know. We will, we should we'll do something a little bit more on that. We focus usually on that side of the pond. We're usually doing UK stuff, a little bit about France or whatever. We should do a little bit more about Italy. Because what in the world happened there? I don't know. Guys, we can't do a post-game show today because we ran a little long and I got to get to actual friends, but I thank you for watching. We'll do it again tomorrow. Why not?